Hello and welcome to everyone. Our guest today again is Victor Altamirano. Victor, congrats on winning LFA, and yeah, it was a wonderful fight, wonderful war. I mean, you were both throwing everything you had, and it was a really, really great match. What can you say in general about the fight? What was the game plan, and how were you preparing for the fight? How much did you need? I mean, I had an interview with Nate Smith. He's a very, very respectful and very well prepared fighter, and it was a pleasure to watch the fight. Please go for it.
Man, Nate was a tough fight. He came under a week notice, like 6 days notice, and put out an amazing performance. I was expecting a different opponent with Carlos Mota, but due to some paperwork, visa issues, and whatever, he wasn't able to make it. But Nate stepped up. He said, "I want to fight." We gave him the title shot along with me, and it was as far as my game plan goes, it didn't change much because both Carlos and Nate are amazing grapplers, and we knew that in order to keep that fight on our favor, we needed to keep distance, control the distance, and also make sure that whenever we engaged, we were able to continue with our angles so that we wouldn't get caught in front of our opponents. So as far as the game plan, it was the same. With Nate, I just had to be more careful about his takedowns, and with Carlos, I had to be more careful about my jiu-jitsu transitions.
About Nate, he tried to shoot in on many occasions, and actually, your takedown stuffing was pretty much good in that fight. It kind of surprised me considering the fact that you're coming from Taekwondo. It's kind of hard to sprawl from a Taekwondo stance.
It was, yes. But we've known this for a very long time. When I started with my gym at Peak Performance with a Taekwondo background, it was very obvious where I was lacking, and that was my grappling. And ever since I started there, they've made sure that that issue was addressed every single day. And we have amazing grapplers, not just jiu-jitsu grapplers, but amazing wrestlers. So our gym is very gears towards being able to take people down. We have amazing guard pullers and amazing guard players, but we also have really, really good wrestlers. And our wrestlers had to adapt to playing with these great guard players, and our guard players had to adapt to defending and creating takedowns on themselves. So I would say that when it comes to grappling, once on the ground and initiating the takedown, our gym is really well rounded. And because I had to train with these people, I feel like even though I wasn't hunting for a takedown and I wasn't really hunting to take it to the ground, it was just evident that my training with these guys has something to say with my performance.
How did you improve your takedown stuffing game so much? I mean, there is a big difference between your previous fight and this fight when it comes to takedown stuffing defense.
I think that we just amped the wrestling. I think that in order to make fast progress in any aspect of the fight, you have to immerse yourself on whatever it is that you want to work on. So I immersed myself in grappling. Like I said, we used our amazing grapplers that we have, and we just went rounds upon rounds upon rounds on stuffing takedowns, on creating scrambles, on making sure that I could manage the distance so that if they did shoot a takedown, they weren't in the best angle or distance possible. So we really concentrated a lot of time on that wrestling aspect of the fight.
How hard it is to keep the game on the feet for 5 rounds against such a good grappler like Nate?
You know, it was it was difficult. I would have to say it was very difficult because Nate's not only aggressive when initiating the takedown, he's aggressive while he's standing up. I not only had to make sure that I kept the distance from his grappling, but I had to make sure I kept the distance from his bombs that he was throwing, those overhands, those straights, those blitzes, and it was a lot more difficult than to just wait for a takedown and stuff it. I also had to make sure my head movement was at play and making sure that the head movement didn't compromise my hips so that he could take me down. And as you could see on the fight, Nate did took advantage of that and was able to take me down a few times.
Got sets of generic questions. Who was, when you were a kid, did you have your favorite MMA fighter, like an idol? Or...
I didn't. No, I really didn't have a favorite MMA. I did have a favorite boxer, of course, Cesar Chavez, but that was when I was a kid, and my parents were all about it. So all I would see was how great this person was, and as I grew up and actually look into it for myself, I realized, man, that's a really good, tough fighter. And as far as MMA goes, him. I really like what Fedor Emelianenko. He's one of my favorites.
Right now in Mexico, when it comes to like mixed martial arts, I know that in the early days that boxing was number one. I mean, you have great boxers, but how is now, considering that Moreno fought for the title and nearly won, considering that Yair is in the top of 145? How is the situation now in Mexico with MMA?
I don't live in Mexico. I want to go, so I want to go and spend time there in the MMA culture because I don't know how big it is. I do know that it's big within the Latino population here in the United States, but as far as how big and how far it's reaching in the countries, like right there, I'm not sure exactly how big. But I've had an interview, and I have another interview with a Mexican journalist, and it seems like they're reaching out. It seems like the sport has has caught the attention of people who love fighting and look don't find themselves in a place where they like boxing. And Mexico, man, there's a lot of fighters. There's a lot of fighters and people who want to fight. I don't know, it's just in our blood. But if you don't like boxing, there's now another option. And because it's broad, I'm really excited to see I'm really excited to see where MMA is going to grow in Mexico because we already seen how far boxing has gone in Mexico, in other Latin American countries like Cuba. I mean, Cuba, Mexico, you think about boxing, those are some of the first countries that pop to your head. And if the culture of MMA starts spreading in those countries, you can only imagine the next Julio Cesar Chavez equivalent in MMA.
I definitely can. That's actually why I ask you. I see Moreno winning the title. I really see him winning the title. He kind of surprised in the fight against Figgy. So yeah, definitely would go that way. Do you have a favorite sport outside of MMA?
My favorite sport outside of MMA, I really like football, like soccer football, and I like tennis. I really like to do those too.
Do you have a favorite animal?
What's that?
Animal, like cat, dog,
Oh, I like jaguars.
jaguars. Why?
Jaguar. Yeah. Well, it's the king of my jungle in Chiapas, Mexico. That's the jaguar paw.
Is it something related to your culture or?
Yeah, yeah. So the jaguar is the the top predator in Latin America as far as the biggest cat. It's in the jungles, and Aztecs worship some of the jaguars as gods or as mystic animals.
Do you have a favorite combo? Well, combo like three or four
Yeah,
strikes, a favorite combination. Do you have that in the
yeah,
octagon?
yeah. So my favorite combo, it's actually starts defensively. So I like to slip, weave, and deliver liver punches. Depending on my distance, I would throw an uppercut or a kick. So slip, weave, and then liver shot. Because I do stand southpaw, my weave goes to my left, and then that's my opponent's right, setting me up for a liver shot.
Would you rate a level changing from 1 to 10 in the MMA game? How much do you think it's important from 1 to 10? I mean, level changing, 1 to 10. Is it important like 1 is not important, 10 is very important?
I think 10. I think it's very important. Level changing is very important. If you're not good at level changing, you have to at the very least be good at recognizing when your opponent is level changing. So I think it's very important.
Do you have a favorite movie?
My favorite movie, I really love Pam's Labyrinth.
How do you say in Mexico? Like favorite telenovela, right? Do you have that?
Yeah. I've never really watched telenovelas. Those aren't really my thing.
Do you have a, like in the octagon? Do you have a favorite submission switch?
A favorite submission? I really like the.
Submission switch. Like, transition from one submission to another, like going for the triangle, then switch to armbar. Like, one submission, then switch to another. Do you have a favorite switch?
Yes, so there's a kimura that I get from top half. So if I'm on top half guard, there's a kimura that I shoot from there. And if that doesn't work, when they defend it, they roll to a side and then I shoot the dars. So kimura to dars.
Like a very hard submission to finish, but yeah, it's very much entertaining. Do you have some plans for the future, considering now you won LFA? I mean, LFA delivers some prospects to UFC, but do you have
Yes.
some other bout under your belt, or?
I would like to go to the UFC. I think that's my plan. My main goal is to start fighting at the UFC. I do know that I want to start making a name for myself, and the big stage, the UFC, is where I should start doing it. I do know that a lot of the people, as you mentioned, who've won the belt, and some of them who haven't, they're just really good in the LFA, haven't moved to the UFC, just because they've achieved things. And I think the flyweight, one of the flyweights, has made it pretty far. So I would like to move to the UFC. I would like to go ahead and become one of them, one of another flyweights, one of the many other people, even outside of flyweights, who made it from the LFA to the UFC. That's my main goal.
What are your thoughts right now on UFC flyweight division?
I think it's growing. I think that after the purge that they have, then COVID happened and they were a little low on fighters and they realized that flyweights are there. We put entertaining fights. We have cardio. The flyweight division is not a boring division. Very seldom would you see a boring flyweight fight. Even if it is a 5-minute, 5-round fight, they'll keep the pace. They'll keep striking. They'll keep moving, because one of the detriments of flyweight is we don't carry a lot of weight. We don't carry a lot of power. So it's more likely to become a trade or a scrap or prolonged fight, because very seldom do one punch knockouts happen. When people get dropped in a flyweight, it's after a flurry or after a blitz or after a combination. So I think as far as the flyweight division, I think it's one of the most entertaining, and it's definitely growing, and the UFC is showing how great it is for people to want to watch it. People want to watch flyweights.
The truth is that unfortunately heavyweight division is getting more traction, but I myself, no, not a fan of heavyweight division over flyweight, definitively. I like seeing fighters throwing bombs and taking part in quick exchanges, but people unfortunately prefer heavyweight division. Honestly, I'm not kind of, waiting for one shot in flyweight. They exchange strikes all day long. And fights are very, very entertaining, but right now, thanks God, it's not endangered anymore. So, would you like to add something to the interview, or is there someone you would like to mention, maybe to give a shout out to someone, or?
I would like to give a shout out to my gym, Peak Performance Watauga, and just thank them. Feel so grateful for being part of that team. A shout out to the LFA, of course, for having me on their shows and making sure that everything runs smoothly as far as the show goes, weigh-ins, the physicals, everything. The whole show just runs smoothly. And I think that for the fighters, that's very important to not stress out about outside things. And the LFA makes sure that everything runs well. So shout out to the LFA. Shout out to my gym, Peak Performance Watauga, my coaches, Juan Tato, Michael Malone, Tony Lemons, Mark, St. John. You guys are amazing. I have a great team. Of course, my wife, Emily Wisman. Give a shout out to my wife. And, that's it. That's all I have. I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful. I got the belt right here, just sitting by me. It's great.
Thank you so much for the interview. I'll put to creation now. Hope to publish it in like hour or two. I hope to publish it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll send you a video. Thank you so much, Victor.
Thank you, sir.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.